Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff Ministries with Setting Yourself Free, the podcast that wants you to be, do, and have all that God created you to be. And tis the season. I got my little, it's the most wonderful time of the year sweatshirt. So you are on the right path to end this year, and Christmas is right around the corner. And I have this amazing physician, Dr. Mark Sherwood, which is at sherwood.tv for all kinds of information from getting the right supplements, not just a power drink, but actually full nutrition in their Kingdom mix, which I've had, which is amazing. And there's education, and you need to follow them on sherwood.tv. And so, Dr. Mark, I'm so grateful always to have you. You're such a man that serves, that wants nothing but the best for people, and just pours your heart and your education and just wanting people to be all that they can be. And that's why I love having you on here. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh my goodness. I love being on here. I'm super honored, Katie, and my prayer and hope, like the hat says today is,
Mm.
which by the way, hope in my world, why do I wear that? Because I want to have the unwavering expectation that something's good going to happen. And that's why when I wear hope gear, it does help me embrace hope somewhat. But my hope really is that people that listen to the broadcast are involved with you, just being a small part that we are, have a better life, better days, and have a quality of life that is really something that can give them great joy.
Absolutely. We don't want anyone to settle. There's no
Mm-mm.
settle, and we only want the best for everybody. And that's why we continue to show up and encourage you to be the best example of who God created you to be, which is one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. And we are going into quite the last couple of weeks of this year of 2024. And there's
Yeah, it seems crazy, doesn't it? I mean, here we are at the end of 2024 and we're going into 25. And,
yeah,
even in our world, there's more conversation about health now than I can remember from anyone, really. So I'm anticipatory and hopeful that there's going to be some good come out of it.
we can only hope and pray. It's
Yeah.
every day we get to start over and do better today than we did yesterday. And obviously with the holiday season, there's a lot of things that come at us. So many,
Hmm.
sensory overload per
Yep.
se, because of preparing for the holiday, preparing for all the shopping and all the decorations and all the stress and the toxicity of all of this at us, right?
Yeah. And when you think about the thing toxicity, that's a big word. People a lot of times kind of sort of categorize that singularly in the idea of chemicals.
Right.
But Katie, it can be habits,
Mm.
customs, practices, protocols, things we do, situations we're around. It is all of that. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, and we can get into these areas, but we live in a very toxic world right now. And really, it's toxic in America for a lot of different reasons because we allow this stuff into our environments, and no one seems to want to do anything about it from the people that could. And I'm talking about, the EPA and the FDA and all these three letter agencies, our government as well, because it's all about money. But then
Right.
again, it's people. People have to be aware and sort of take a toxicity inventory, if you will, and be honest about that. Where am I spending my time? Where am I putting my effort, my emotions, my physical well-being, what's coming in me, on me, etc. And we should be willing and receptive to make a change because, Katie, if we don't make a change, and,
Right.
and it's a free country, we don't have to make change.
Right.
Toxins or toxicity, if you look at those words, it simply means something that's potentially dangerous or deadly.
Exactly.
But lack of toxicity is the opposite, something that is not potentially dangerous or deadly. And I don't know about you, but it seems reasonable to me to gravitate towards those situations, things, people, places that are not toxic.
I would hope so, because it's a lot better in your emotions and in your physical body, your spiritual body, everything that creates us as
Yep.
a human. Not avoiding toxicity, obviously, is the best way to have health in all areas from, mind, body, spirit, which is who we are.
Indeed. And, I think maybe a good point of toxin to start out with is going to be these forever chemicals or toxic chemicals that are everywhere. And people might know them. There's been a lot in the news lately, actually, about these PFAS, polyfluoral alkyl substances, or perfluoral alkyl substances. But these PFAS chemicals are everywhere. They
Mm,
are said to be forever because they actually can withstand high heat and they don't go away.
wow.
But guess where they are? They're in, carpet cleaners,
Oh, yeah.
clothing. They're
Right.
even in barriers like French fry boxes, wrappers, hamburger boxes, and all fast food. So these things are everywhere. And I use my purpose to make a point here is that even in the infamous Trump Force One photo that everybody saw, which is frankly not good in my personal and professional viewpoint, um, they're holding forever chemicals in
Right.
their hands, and these forever chemicals have been known to show up in a water supply. And a matter of fact, the greatest settlement was against like 3M and DuPont in this idea of litigation. It was for $12 billion. That's the greatest one that I could find in sort of the literature that I searched about lawsuits because they had contaminated drinking water. So these things are everywhere. So they're in our clothing, living rooms,
Can't get
food
away from it.
chains. No, you can't. And so we just got to really understand it. And then you couple that with chemicals that are in our food supply.
Right.
And then you go down the pathway of Roundup, which
Mm,
contains glyphosate and atrazine, which is carcinogenic
yes.
and estrogenic respectively. And you got back to the water, you've got birth control drugs being in there, which are given to little girls like candy. You've got statin drugs that are given to adults like candy under the false pretense that LDL going high is bad.
Mm,
So then you've got this sort of three-point bombardment with everything we touch, we breathe, and that in the places in which we bathe.
right.
So you're seeing this feminization of America. I mean, there's no question we're seeing that. We're seeing carcinogenic activity increase. Now it's roughly 610,000 people a year die of cancers, and that is going to cross over and overtake heart disease as the number one killer in our country. I predict in the next 10 years. And
Wow.
it's never been like that before in history. Heart disease has been number one for about 60 or 70 years now. So it's really out of control. And interestingly enough, the obesity crisis is tied in here, Katie, because with excess fat tissue, most toxins, all the ones I spoke of, they happen to be lipophilic, meaning they love fat. They're
Right.
drawn to fat and they get stored in fat.
Mm,
So it is a bad situation right now from a chemical, environmental, food, air supply situation.
right. Wow.
It's a
So
lot.
it is a lot. So it's interesting when we're talking about all of this being stored in the fat.
Mhm.
So there's so many people. I mean, we obviously have a very obesity issue in our
Yeah.
country. So then you have them not even aware, probably, obviously, that the fat is what is storing all of these toxins. So what do they do to get rid of the fat? Obviously it's like get to the gym or go for a walk or what have you. But what are your thoughts? And I don't know what your thoughts are with this GLP-1.
Well, it's interesting. We have used GLP-1 semaglutide a lot, but we use it under a completely different context. And that's a great question because under the context in which we have used it, and I'll describe this in a minute. Now, I'll give people hopefully the mechanism of action of these things and then really the real scoop.
Okay.
Um, from our perspective, using it under the guides that we put it under, it has been something that's been a game changer to reduce excess adiposity or fat tissue from the frame and also normalize and optimize numbers in labs, biomarkers such as blood sugar or metabolic markers. We've also seen it do a wonderful job with reducing damage to lipids, which affects cardiovascular disease processes, right?
Right.
So basically, GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. And what that is when it's a natural substance that is secreted from the lower stomach, upper small intestine area of the gut when the body senses that it's full. So the body has this real natural rhythm, if you will, of I'm hungry
Hmm.
and I'm full. And by the way, God gave us both. And so if God gives you something and makes us that way, we must understand that there's an opposite pull away from God's direction, and that's going to be Satan's pull with
Right.
appetite. And a crazy example, and I'll get back to the point, but crazy example is God doesn't direct anyone to go eat a bucket of donuts
Right.
or French fries. That's not God's appetite, folks. That is Satan's direction to make you think that that's appetite. God never directs anyone through this God-given mechanism of hunger to put anything in his temple, the only creation in his own image, that would destroy the home for himself. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you see, that's just common sense. Now, this is not taught in churches, obviously, because we actually see people abuse this and encourage this in the way we've corporatized and culturized America's version of the body of Christ. Now, with that said, the GLP-1s, back to that. It's a
Hmm.
little free tangential
Oh,
information
that's
for you
great.
spiritual folks out there.
I love it.
Um, yeah, that again, that's a unique perspective we have, but it's still biblically true.
And
So
it plays in our life, right? Or it
it
should.
does. Now, when food comes in, we chew it, which is called mastication. It goes down the esophagus and into drops through the esophageal sphincter into our stomach, which is the size of our fist, not the size of a basketball. And so once that gets full down there, it starts to digest through the stomach acid and enzymes and all that starts to move south, right, through our system, through
Right.
all of our small intestine, large intestines, colon, and out the backside, right? And
Yeah.
so all that happens. And when we get full, this GLP-1 signal gets sent northward to our brain to say that, you know what, you've had enough. And so we get the satisfaction of hunger and we get the satiation of being full, right? And so that's a normal process that happens. But in today's world, we get so inundated with high calorie, non nutritious food.
Right.
One, we don't live on calories, we live on nutrients. That's a point. And then number two, we eat fast and stressed all the time, which prevents and slows down digestion.
Mhm.
So even under normal circumstances, the GLP-1 doesn't go north for about 20 minutes.
Oh,
But
wow.
we have something in America called a buffet, and we eat very fast. So you can eat, several plates of food in 10 minutes. We're eating in a hurry.
Right.
So again, that's the way we are right now. So hence, we have the development of these drugs that
Right.
include the GLP-1 agonists. They'll make that GLP-1 signal go north quicker and make you more sensitive to that. Now, from that standpoint, the drugs out there, Ozempic, Wegovy, Manjaro,
Hmm.
etc. They're out there everywhere, and they are used right now for weight loss.
Right.
And do they work? Well, yes, but is weight loss healthy? No, not if it's just looking at weight.
Right.
Because if you lose muscle tissue,
Right.
well, that's a net negative. And if you're nutrient deficient, that's a net negative. And you're going to end up losing muscle tissue and your hair.
Mm.
So we see this Hollywood anorexic kind of look out there, which most people have been, deceived with weight
Right.
loss things for a long time.
Right.
So we don't use it like that. Um, we looked at it and we thought, you know what? It would be good if we could use it as a concept of training wheels,
Mm.
like on a bike. How do
Right.
you learn to ride a bike? You might have training wheels to help you balance, right? And then eventually the training wheels got to go off, man. So, first of all, we looked at that semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in these GLP-1 agonists. And we do have and obtained a high compounded dosage form of semaglutide. We have that available. We use it all the time,
Hmm.
where we can use a little bit, very strong to go a long ways. And
Okay.
so what happens is when people take this under our guidelines, we tell them you must eat healthy,
Hmm.
no wavering, because I want high nutritional value.
Right.
And that goes truth all the time. But there are habits and there are situations that people need to break.
Mm.
Sometimes they need to understand that, Jane Doe or John Doe doesn't determine what I eat. Mark does,
Yeah.
and I have no obligations to do what they do. I have no obligations to do what anybody does. I have obligations to care for my temple. So we go through all that stuff with people
Right.
and we tell them high nutritional value, etc. No wavering, because when you take these things, that fist is all you got. That's
Right.
all you got. So you need to make it count. And under that first step guideline, starting off very low, working up to where we get the ability to control lifestyle better,
Mm.
we see amazing, incredible results.
That's awesome.
Now, the second thing, which has not been done, that we come up with that I think is a beautiful concept here, and we are working through this right now, my wife and I.
Hmm.
We all know that intermittent fasting is good.
Right.
No one would disagree with that. No matter where you are, who you are, it's people are going to disagree that intermittent fasting or fasting is a good thing, whether it be spiritual or physical, and it really is both.
Right.
So what about using semaglutide every couple weeks in minimalistic, effective doses to assist a human being incorporate known, intermediate, or long-term fast
Mm.
for the ability to preserve life and increase longevity? So you see, there's ways to do this in a beneficial way. So we have used this extensively under those two guidelines and had really incredible success. So sorry, long answer, long
No,
explanation,
no, it's
but I,
great.
I wanted people to know that.
Yeah, because I mean, that is very helpful to
Yeah.
realize is there is a very good way to implement that during those fasting times that will help you to maintain the fast, but
Yes.
not use it as, your be all and do all and only using it where you're going to start losing muscle. And that's the other
Right.
thing. Obviously, if you're going to be on that, I would think that you need to be doing whatever you can to increase your muscle mass, which means you need to lift some weights.
Oh, we tell everyone to lift weights. We give them workout programs, and the ones that are local to us, we put them on our body composition machine. We're always checking their muscle. We're always checking their fat. We're checking the percent body fat. And if they're in another area, we tell them to go find a place to do that and give us that information. So this is like something that we're very stern on and strict on because we know that it can work and it can be a great process to keep, back to a training wheel illustration. I want people to learn to ride the bike,
Right,
which is do lifestyle. I want them to not need training wheels. I want them to become fat gain resistant. And there is such a thing because that's normal. And so if they can just get those ideas and concepts in their head and then heart, it becomes pretty easy.
right. So on an elementary statement, I would say, so eating, obviously making good food choices, obviously getting to the gym so you're lifting weights and maintaining your muscle, which increases your metabolism.
Yes.
And obviously doing this as a lifestyle, not just, oh, I want to lose 5 pounds before Christmas or I want
Right.
to lose it before I go on vacation, but having it as a lifestyle.
Yeah. Those would be given. And then gotta think about getting adequate sleep.
Right.
And that's another angle. And then you got to think about learning how to effectively live under appropriate stress.
Mm.
And of course, that goes into probably our
Mm.
final area of toxicity, which is toxic situations and toxic people.
Right.
And there's a bunch of that toxicity out there. And you got to ask yourself a question, is this situation, is this relationship something that is dangerous or deadly? Or is it something that brings life and has no harm to me?
Right.
And so those situations really should be discussed openly. And
Mm-mm.
my wife and I have had those discussions, Katie. I mean, and we've actually, it's like, because you can find yourself interwoven in situations you're like, how in the heck did I get here?
Right.
But then
Right.
you go back to it and there's typically red flags. There's typically a bridge out sign that you walk past. There's typically someone else said no, but love is blind or whatever you want to do,
Right.
or loyalty is blind or whatever. We get ourselves in situations And sometimes in the situations we're afraid to have the conversations with the other person. And we just continue to go on and in reality, the conversation needs to be had because it can benefit both of you.
Exactly.
It gives people an opportunity. So even with like Christmas, I mean, we had this Christmas season, you'll find this funny and fascinating. Probably about 8 or 9 years ago, we were having this discussion, Christmas holiday is, man, it can be chaotic. Going
Very.
into here, there, all over the place, and getting
Right.
this or getting that, how much you spend, who to send cards to, who to not send cards to. And it goes on and on and on. And one day we had this conversation, and it began with a question. Do you really enjoy this?
Right.
And the answer was no. And it was kind of hard,
Right.
but the answer was no. It was, this is not, I don't even think of God during this time in
Mm.
this, because all I'm thinking is, I don't want to make them mad.
The to-do list is what it
That's
is.
right. It's like, oh, what am I doing? So we decided about 8 or 9 years ago that we had no obligation to follow a culture
Mm.
that was toxic, straight
Right.
up. And so
Right.
we changed it and we decided, let's do something different. And on a whim, one year, and this is may have been 9 years ago,
Yeah.
we said, we're gonna leave. We're going out of town at Christmas. We're gonna go somewhere warm. And we're gonna stay between Christmas and New Year's. And after that, we'll get back.
Wow.
And so we went to Mexico that year. And we told people, we're going to Mexico. And if you want to come visit, you can. But we ain't going to hang out with you. We'll have one meal with you. But it is, because we didn't want to like do that.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
of course, it created a lot of upheaval. And how
Right.
could you? Well, I'm like, we just did. But it took about 3 days. And we realized not only was it the right decision, but it was the best decision because it took the pressure off and it gave us a
Mhm.
chance to reflect and focus on what we should be focusing on, which is non-toxic things. So we put all effort into exercising, not once a day, but twice a day. This is going to sound crazy. We ultra focus on diet. We focus on de-stressing. We focus on getting rest. We focus on connectivity with each other.
Right.
And,
It's
and that has been something that we've looked forward to. Now, 9 years later,
wow.
we've done the same thing, and I don't see a reason to change. But that's just an example
Incredible.
of what, I mean, I'm not saying people need to do that. Please don't take
No,
that.
but what a great inspiration to
Yeah.
pause. When you sit and we talk about the 7 days that God gave us, and 6 days was work, and the seventh day was rest. And how many
Yeah.
of us are truly honoring that? I know I'm not, and I need to, and I keep promising myself I'm going to. And so, I mean, what a beautiful way because, rest is that four-letter word that very few people do.
Oh, I know. We look at it almost as a four-letter naughty word
Right.
because you see in like business, we were talking in the green room before coming live, and in business practices, sometimes it's almost frowned upon to do that.
Yeah.
Because if you're sleeping, you're not making money, and you need to get up. You need 4 hours sleep. You got to go hard. Well, I don't know about that. Maybe it works for some folks, but it doesn't work for us. And to us, again, toxicity is all
Mhm.
about the toxin, right? The way it affects you.
Right.
And so, with that said, we had to shake some of that off of us and get in a place where we could actually detoxify and get us in a better place. And
Which is great.
we decided we spend most of the time outside because, outside is less polluted than inside, right?
Right. Well, you
So I want to
hopefully you're in
spend
a sunny place with vitamin D, right?
exactly. I want to go down there and I want to get my feet wet, feel the sun on my head and read a book. And we don't have much on our agenda,
That's
which
awesome.
is like really cool. And so, again, that's work for us and
Oh,
it does work for us. And we really look forward to it. Instead of like you look back at Christmas sometimes in January and you go, I'm glad that's over with.
right.
And
Right.
that's like so fundamentally flawed because it
Right.
should be some of the greatest reflective times we have of an entire calendar year.
Right. It's almost like it's counterintuitive.
Yes. Well, counterintuitive is even health right now, isn't it? In our
Right.
world, If
Right.
you're healthy, you're looked at as a weirdo.
Exactly. Because you're one
Yeah.
of the rare ones, which
Yeah,
is sad to say as well.
it is. But all that said, I think that we all need to do inventory of and be aware of all these things and begin to sort of knock them down one at a time and make some change.
Big time. Well, that's a huge inspiration. I think what the problem has come to be is that busy is like this badge of honor. I'm
Yeah.
busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. And if you're not busy, it's almost like this, like you said, this addictive toxic reaction that if you aren't constantly in constant movement and not even resting and not even doing that, it's like then you're doing great things. And it's just like, no, because sometimes it's almost the opposite because you're
Yeah.
so drained. You're not taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, or spiritually, and so you're exhausted, and so that badge of honor is that being busy is obviously the opposite of what it should be.
I agree. And a lot of people out there that are in the entrepreneurial space,
Right,
um, the addiction to busyness is like a dopamine drive. And
right,
I know people out there that have been, and I've been there, man. People have been in the speaker space, their preacher space,
yep,
itinerant minister space. Everything is driven by what I can come up with next and going from this high to this high to this high. In the meantime, we may think we're doing good, and we
right,
may be doing good. We may think we're successful, we may be successful. But my question for them is, what if there was more?
right,
What if you could be more successful and more effective at what you did by working less busy at it? And of course, that's like a mind warp
mm-hmm,
because when you're in a place that seemingly is working okay, and this is a powerful concept, but I want people to think about this. When you're in a place that's seemingly okay, you may find out that it's a self-imposed prison. It
yeah,
may be your Egypt, and it
mm,
may be time to find the promised land. And
amen,
maybe people are coming to your life and saying, "Hey, man, you think this is good? There's better." And my intent and intention with people is to say, listen, pray through it, and don't be afraid to get out of your own prison sometimes and change things. Because if you don't change that perspective, the longer you stay there, it'll become more normal
right,
and you won't even know what it's like and you'll be too scared to change.
right.
And I don't want people to be like that.
No, not even. And I mean, it I mean, the more we talk about this, and we talk about this almost on a regular basis because it's
Yeah.
so important, and there is light at the end of the tunnel
Oh,
when you
yeah.
make that decision that you're not going to drive yourself into the grave sooner than you should be
Well,
by
that's
right,
it, Katie. In America, we are not living to our potential.
right,
We're just not. We
right,
talked about longevity and all this before
right.
on your show, and we're not doing it.
Mm,
And we've fallen for the trap of mediocrity,
mm,
average.
mm,
And I just don't know, man, what that is. And I don't believe, I mean, people can choose to do that. In every team sport, there's going to be people that put out 100% effort. Some people put out 80. Who's going to see the field?
right,
100% effort people. You can be excellent or not, but we've got to have at least someone saying, living, preaching, being, establishing a bar of excellence. And in our world, we have the greatest bar to look at. His name is Jesus. He walked the earth and he lived that bar of
right,
excellence in such a way that there's no way to do it with our effort.
right.
But with him and
Awful.
everything we talked about,
Mm,
with him in our lives, everything that he had in his life is in our life,
mm,
100%.
mm,
So we can be and live exactly like Jesus did on earth because of the empowerment of the Holy Spirit within us. And that's a hard concept, but
right.
it is the absolute 100% truth.
It is. And what word keeps coming to me as we're talking is intentional. You have to
Yes.
be intentional about everything that you don't take for granted. Just grabbing something quick to eat because you're hungry versus planning and being intentional about that, intentional about exercise, intentional about getting in prayer and peace and pausing and not doing anything until you have peace.
Well, we get to moving
Pray,
so
pause, and
fast.
yeah,
Yeah, pray, pause, and then move. We just we move so fast in life, and we have so much access to so much information and so much stimulus. We really have not taken the time that we need, in my opinion, to talk with the Lord, to
Hmm.
speak with him, not just talking at him,
Right.
but with him. So in other words, when you're speaking with somebody, I figure that we have one mouth and two ears for a reason. We probably need to listen twice as much. And
Exactly.
when I get to talk to the Lord, I figure he knows more than twice as much as I do. So I want to listen.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And again, taking that time, but you have to push the plunger down and say stop,
Yeah.
you
Oh, yeah.
know, so you can rest and obviously really listen. I mean, but I think people just obviously are too busy and too anxious, but they can stop, and there is a better way. And if we're in constant and never-ending improvement, which is hopefully what everyone is getting from these podcasts, is that we're
Yes.
encouraging them to have constant and never-ending improvement of who they are, whose they are, and what they're supposed to walk out in the calling of their life with God.
Amen. And my encouragement for everyone is just take it one step, one day, one thought, one moment, one word, one decision at a time, and realize that we're one decision away from doing something great or one decision away from doing something dumb. And we really need to think about that.
Yep. And God's plan is always better than ours because
Yeah,
he sees the beginning from the end and we don't. And we have to trust that and believe that
indeed.
his plan is so much bigger. And so why would we ever settle for anything less?
I don't know, and sometimes we do. I've done it. We all done
Oh,
it, but
I wrote a book
it's
on
like,
it.
yeah, it's like here we
But
go. But we obviously, through the grace of God, his mercies are new every morning, and his forgiveness is brand
Mhm.
new to experience this when we wake up. Um, we need to take advantage of that.
Yes, he wants nothing but the best for us. And so why
Hmm.
would we settle for anything less?
No doubt. No
Yeah.
doubt.
Well, this is awesome. We've gone full circle from toxicity to being on the other side of this and
Yep.
trusting and believing God's plan and making good decisions in this holiday season. And maybe taking incredible advice from my dear Dr. Sherwood in regards to maybe take a vacation where you totally do something absolutely different than what you've ever done, just to pause and rest and enjoy that time and that moment.
Well, I hope people do because, hey, do try it once, man. Do something different on the things you always do that you really don't get much out of,
Right.
and see what happens. You never know what'll happen with that.
Well, I'm believing that it's going to be an amazing awakening and that you won't ever want to not do that again because of the energy that it gives you because you did pause and you did have some
Amen.
and relax. So, Dr. Stewart, as always, you're such an inspiration and encouragement of, you know, peace and prayer and, taking control of our lives and not just becoming a victim of the circumstances of the world that we live in, but to literally be intentional about all the decisions that we're making that are going to be healthy. So thank you so much for your heart to serve. And again, go to sherwood.tv. There's some incredible supplements there. There's some critical education, and they have all kinds of programs that are going to make your life better. And so I encourage you to do that. And please think about joining Katie Huff Ministries in Montana, May 4th through the 7th in Paradise, Montana for the women's retreat. It's a transformational, restful. One of the things we're going to do this year, Dr. Mark, is we're going to spend more time in rest than
Oh,
do
I love it.
at the women's retreat. So follow Katie Huff Ministries by going to katy-huff.com and push that events button and fill out the form, and I will call you. So God bless you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank
Yeah.
you so much for, your love and trust for my wife and I.
Oh, well, it is one of my greatest blessings, and I am so grateful that God
Mm,
has brought us together. So God bless you. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, and we will see you in 2025.
sounds great.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries, and I am coming to you today to encourage you to put 2024 as your best year ever. And how are you going to do that? By putting your health and healing as your number one priority. How do you do that? You go to officialsynapse.com and you go to where it says free consult, free discovery call. It's free. This people at Synapse are amazing. They're going to get you on the road to health and healing in 2024. And so again, it's free. Go to officialsynapse.com and click on that free discovery call and make 2024 your best year ever. God bless you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries, and this is Bella Jean, and we're coming to you today to talk to you about setting yourself free by having first a great night's sleep. How's that going to happen? By using My Pillow. My Pillow has incredible products. Bella Jean even has her own dog bed and loves it. She sleeps well at night, so do we. Because we also have the topper, we have the pillows, we've used the sheets, we have the towels, and we even have the slippers. So we are a family that loves My Pillow as much as my Bella Jean, and I'm hoping that your dog will love it as much as ours, and that you'll go to mypillow.com/unmasked. Again, that's mypillow.com/unmasked, and you'll get incredible discounts for your family to be setting themselves free to having a great night's sleep and having an amazing holiday season with My Pillow products. Thank you.